Picture this. You're 37. You've done everything a man was told to do. You provide. You protect. You show up. You've worked overtime, swallowed your emotions, sacrificed your comfort for others' peace. You didn't complain. You just kept going. Because that's what men do, right? But now you find yourself parked in the driveway every night, engine off, staring at the house you pay for, dreading walking in, not because you hate your family, but because you've become invisible inside your own home. You speak, no one listens. You try to lead, you're questioned. You ask for affection. You're met with cold silence or tired excuses. You're no longer a man in his own castle. You're an employee in someone else's kingdom. And here's the terrifying part. This is normal now. So how did we get here? Why are so many men, good men, waking up to the same quiet truth? That marriage isn't what they thought it was. Let's talk about it. Here are 5 hard truths about modern marriage every man must hear before he makes the biggest mistake of his life. Truth 1. You will be expected to provide everything and receive nothing guaranteed. It starts with praise. You're the man, the protector, the one who shows up no matter how tired, no matter what it costs. You fix what breaks. You cover what's missing. You shoulder what no one else wants to carry. And for a while, that makes you feel strong. It gives your struggle a purpose. But then something shifts, and you won't even notice it at first. The thank yous fade. The admiration disappears. And before long, your effort isn't celebrated. It's expected. You're no longer the man who goes above and beyond. You're just the guy who's supposed to. That 12-hour day you pulled to keep the family afloat? Barely noticed. That debt you silently absorbed to avoid conflict? Never acknowledged. You go from hero to background noise, from king to convenience. And when you finally speak up, when you finally say, I'm tired, I need a break, I feel unseen, they look at you like you've grown a second head. Be grateful, they say. You have a wife. You have a home. You're not allowed to feel like this. But here's what no one understands unless they've lived it. Being everything to everyone eventually makes you feel like nothing to yourself. Because when you're the one who always solves the problem, no one stops to ask if you're okay. They see your strength, but they never wonder what it's costing you. And slowly, quietly, you start disappearing in your own life. Not because you stop showing up, but because no one's looking at you anymore. They see the job. They see the paycheck. They see the results. But they don't see you. And in a marriage where your value is measured only by what you produce, you're not a partner. You're a resource, a role, a reliable function, until one day the weight is too heavy, and you realize you've spent years taking care of everyone except the man in the mirror. Truth 2, you'll be respected by strangers and undermined at home out there in the world. People listen when you speak. At work, your team values your decisions. Your clients trust your judgment. Even strangers nod when you talk with conviction. Because out there, your experience matters. Your tone carries weight. Your presence means something. But at home, you open your mouth, and suddenly you're too intense. You express an opinion, and it's controlling. You suggest a better way, and it's met with, stop trying to be the boss. You're not leading, you're arguing. You're not offering clarity, you're starting conflict. You're not protecting, you're too traditional. It's a strange thing to experience. being respected by the world, and disrespected by the people you sacrifice everything for. You watch decisions being made without you. You hear about changes you were never consulted on. You see your authority erode in real time, not because you failed, but because somewhere along the way, the man of the house stopped being seen as necessary, and yet the expectations remain. You're still expected to protect, still expected to pay, still expected to show up on command, but without the voice, without the weight, without the dignity. You go from being the backbone to being the afterthought. And the most dangerous part, you start to believe that's normal. You start shrinking your words, holding back your instincts, lowering your standards, just to keep peace in a home that no longer honors your presence. And eventually, you stop speaking altogether. Not because you've got nothing to say, but because you've learned that no one's listening anyway. Truth 3, the intimacy will fade, and you won't be allowed to ask why no one tells you this before you say, I do. They talk about love, they talk about loyalty, they talk about forever, but what they don't talk about is the quiet space that begins to grow between you and the woman you married. At first, it's small, a missed kiss before bed, a subtle dodge when you reach for her hand, a cold I'm tired when you lean in at night. You don't panic. You tell yourself she's just stressed. You try harder, be more understanding, give her space. But days become weeks, weeks become months, and before you know it, you're living in a house with someone who barely looks at you like a man, the same woman who once couldn't wait to touch you, now flinches like affection is a burden. You try to fix it. You plan dates. You light candles. You pour out your feelings gently, hoping she'll hear you. But instead, you're met with guilt trips, eye rolls, accusations. You only care about one thing. You're so needy. Why do you make everything about sex? But this was never about sex. It was about connection, about feeling wanted, about knowing that the person you chose still chooses you, not out of duty, but out of desire. Because for men, physical intimacy isn't just pleasure. It's proof that we're seen, that we're appreciated, that we're still enough. And when that disappears, it cuts deeper than rejection. It feels like being erased in your own relationship. Here's the part that hurts the most. You're not allowed to seek it anywhere else. You're not allowed to complain. You're not even allowed to admit how much it's affecting you without being labeled selfish or perverted. So you shrink. You starve. You tell yourself this is just how marriage works. But deep down, you feel it. You gave up every other woman in the world for one who's no longer interested in being your woman at all. Truth 4, if she leaves, the law doesn't care what you did right. You could do everything right, be loyal, be responsible, stay faithful, show up, even on the days you're running on fumes. You could build your family a home, not just with money, but with presence, with patience, with a heart that keeps giving, even when it's tired. And still, she could wake up one morning and say, I'm not happy. No abuse, no cheating, no betrayal, just a quiet exit, backed by a legal system that won't ask for your side of the story. She'll get the house, she'll get the kids, she'll get the sympathy. You, you get the couch in a one-bedroom apartment, you get child support, you get court dates, you get blamed for a marriage that took everything from you and still demanded more. And when you tell people, they'll ask, what did you do? Because they can't imagine that a woman would leave a good man. because the default narrative is always that the man failed. It doesn't matter that you put your dreams on hold. It doesn't matter that you worked 2 jobs to keep things afloat. It doesn't matter that you showed up, even when she stopped trying years ago. None of it matters, because in the courtroom, it's not about fairness. It's about formula. And that formula was not built for you. You can lose your kids, your savings, your peace of mind, and still be expected to smile for family photos at the next birthday party. You'll still be called a good dad as long as the checks clear on time. That's the cruel joke. You'll be judged like a king, but treated like a visitor. No matter how good of a man you were, you're still disposable in the eyes of the system. And by the time you realize that, it's already too late. Truth 5. If you break down, no one's coming to save you. You don't talk about it. You wake up, get dressed, go to work, pay the bills, nod through the arguments, swallow the disrespect, and pretend everything's fine. Because that's what men are trained to do. Hold it together. Don't make a scene. Don't show weakness. But every day the pressure builds. The little cuts, they add up. Disregarded opinions, unmet needs, lonely nights in your own bed. You carry it all in silence because you were taught that no one's coming. And if you crack, if you break, the world won't ask, what happened to him? It'll say he couldn't handle it. You'll be labeled bitter. You'll be told to man up. You'll be dismissed with a joke or a shrug. Even when you're drowning, they'll say, he had a good life. What's he complaining about? That's the paradox. You're not allowed to express the pain without being blamed for it. You're not allowed to collapse without being accused of weakness. So most men just keep going, smiling on the outside, breaking on the inside, until something gives, a bottle, a fuse, a vein in the brain, and suddenly he's the story no one saw coming. But the truth is, they just weren't looking, because a man who sacrifices silently is considered noble. But a man who speaks up is seen as dangerous. And that's the final cost of modern marriage for many men. Not the money, not even the divorce, but the slow erosion of a man's spirit, while everyone watches and calls it normal. So here's the truth. Marriage today isn't evil, but for many men, it's no longer safe. It's become a place where expectations are sky high and support is often low, where love is assumed but respect is optional, where sacrifice is constant but appreciation fades. You can still want connection, still believe in love, still value partnership, but you don't have to sign a contract that puts your peace, your future, or your identity at risk. Because real commitment doesn't require paperwork, it requires mutual effort. And the men choosing to stay free, they're not broken. They're not bitter. They're not afraid of women. They're simply awake. Awake to the fact that giving your best shouldn't cost you your self-worth. Awake to the idea that being a man isn't about enduring pain in silence. Awake to the reality that you can protect your peace and still live a life full of love, clarity, and freedom. Subscribe to Philosophes for clarity, for courage, for men who choose peace over performance.